And welcome back to the Hot Lap. We are talking Lewis Hamilton and Carlos Sainz. So Carlos Sainz has finally come out. Now he's over the fact, apparently, that Lewis Hamilton replaced him, rightly or wrongly. But he's fairly comfortable with it. He's made peace with it, so to speak. And he's giving his opinion on it and how he thinks it will all go, which I think is quite interesting to talk about. Don't you? So here it is. This is from planetf1.com. Carlos Sainz breaks silence on Lewis Hamilton's Ferrari hopes after anger subsides. Obviously, yes, I can appreciate. I think, like all of us, if you're being replaced and you loved being at a being somewhere, you've been replaced with someone, you're going to be angry no matter how good that person may well be. So new Williams driver Sainz had admitted that Ferrari's title hopes, in his opinion, have increased after Hamilton's replaced him for the 2025 season, which is quite interesting. Is he saying then that Hamilton's better than him? No, Sainz is gearing up, as we know, for his first season in a Williams as a Williams driver, having agreed what is a multi-year contract with the team. So the Spaniard was forced to make the way out of Ferrari for Lewis Hamilton. It was announced about this time last year. The most decorated driver in the sport's history with 7 World Championships, 105 race victories to his name. And his shock move from Mercedes was announced. And now, despite being informed that his Ferrari contract would not be extended beyond 2024, because that was the rumour even before Hamilton announced it, it was almost like, well, the rumour was Ferrari were offering Sainz maybe like a 1 year, he wanted a multi-year, etc., etc. But then Sainz produced in 2024 the most complete season of his career last year, the best season he's ever had, claiming 2 victories in both Australia and Mexico. Now Hamilton, though, which was interesting, kind of the opposite. Yes, he did score 2 victories. He was struggling to match Mercedes teammate George Russell, particularly in qualifying in 2024, conceding at the penultimate race in Qatar that he's not fast anymore. And Ferrari were widely accused of making a mistake by replacing Sainz with a 7-time world champion. He didn't say that, but people were suggesting that Ferrari had made a big mistake. Even Eddie Jordan, the F1 team owner, was amongst the vocal critics, saying John Elkann must have rocks in his head to have taken the decision to drop Sainz. EJ, though, one for always a bit of a soundbite. However, Jordan, though, he's performed a U-turn, unlike him, isn't it? By conceding that Ferrari have made the right decision for all sorts of reasons, particularly commercial, by signing Hamilton, who is now 40 years old. Let's just add in the ageism there, shall we? Planet F1, oh my lord. So Sainz had got his first taste of Williams F1 car, of the 2025 F1 car, at the launch of the FW47 at Silverstone, the home of the British Grand Prix, and this was last Friday at the time of recording. And speaking to media, that included the site I'm quoting from, copying from, talking about now, planetf1.com, after the run. Now, Sainz admitted that Hamilton's arrival made Ferrari more likely to win the World Championship, having felt that the team were already on the verge of a title push at the same time of his departure. Now, asked if Hamilton could bring the title back to Ferrari, he said, honestly, I don't know. He said, I've never been teammates with Lewis, so I don't know what he's capable of doing. I've never seen his data. But he carried on by saying, I've seen Charles, as in Charles of the Leclerc, and I know how good Charles is. But I've never been teammates with Lewis, which is, yeah, okay. He said, and the only way you could more or less evaluate a driver is when your teammate and you see what you're capable of doing. Now, when I judge by results and his background and what he's achieved, he's very philosophical here, isn't he, Sainz? He said, I can only say there's a very high chance that obviously he's going to be very competitive at Ferrari. But like everything, it will depend on how well you can adapt to a car, how well you adapt to a team, in which moment, in which moment your teammate is in, and that's going to be the massive exclamation mark for Lewis Hamilton. He wasn't comfortable. He's never really been comfortable in the Mercedes in this ground effect era. So if the Ferrari is more inclined with the way Hamilton drives. As we know, Hamilton is really one of the best drivers on the brakes. He likes to brake really, really late and have a solid rear end. No, not Hamilton himself. We're talking about the car. And so when he puts the power on, it doesn't like shake and wobble. He's got confidence in it, and that's what brings his speed. It's his confidence in that braking and that rear end. Sadly, this has not realistically been the case with the Mercedes and the porpoising as well. With the porpoising in particular in 2020 through the corners, which unsettled the car. Anyway, Sainz carried on by saying, there are so many variables that it is impossible for me to predict. He said, I can only say when I left Ferrari, I did feel the team, both Ferrari and Charles, were ready to fight for a world championship. And with Lewis joining, the chance only got increased. Now, Sainz's latest comments come after he admitted to being hurt, and let's be fair, yes, completely agree, when Ferrari decided to sign Hamilton and not him. And he conceded that he understood Ferrari's logic behind signing the most successful driver in F1 history, claiming he would have been miffed had he been replaced by any other driver. I understand that completely as well. Now, appearing on F1's Beyond the Grid podcast at the end of last year, he said, I understand the Ferrari's choice, and I understand it almost right from the beginning. He said, I think if it had been someone else, it would have taken a lot longer to understand. And he carried on by saying, but when you understand Lewis Hamilton, the 7-time world champion and one of the best, if not the best, in history, is going to replace you at Ferrari, and Lewis has decided to do the last part of his career in Ferrari, you need to be one of the 2 drivers sacrificed for that to happen. I understand it was never going to be Charles who was replaced. Now, Charles has been the project of Ferrari, Sainz said, ever since he's been a junior driver. He's been the centre of the project for many years. He says, I arrived at Ferrari more of a substitute of Vettel, almost a bit, not by chance, but circumstantial, rather than Charles, who has been there forever. And he said, so I understood I had to be the one being replaced, and I understood it from the beginning. I just obviously don't agree so much at the time, but you end up agreeing and you end up getting on with it. Both of them are very, very close. You can make an argument Charles Leclerc just that slight bit better than Carlos Sainz. The results speak for themselves. Having said that, had Sainz completely destroyed Charles Leclerc, I'm sure it would have been Charles that may well have been the one going. We never know. But Charles added, I think on the radio after winning in Australia that life is such a roller coaster. I remember being emotional on that Australian Grand Prix podium because there was my dad there. There was obviously my manager, my girlfriend, and everyone who's been next to me. I was obviously thinking about my mum, and they've all seen me suffer through the winter. When I say suffer, I don't mean I was crying behind closed doors, but I was actually hurt. I was hurt because I didn't expect it. I wasn't prepared for that kind of news. I was in a bit of shock for a while, and then I regrouped and got to training again. And he said, but I remember that win in Australia, thinking about how lucky I am for the people that I have around me. Oh, it's lovely, isn't it? Supporting me, giving me that inner strength to overcome what was a tough moment at the time. And he said, but now when I look back, I'm almost happy, proud that it happened, because it made me a much better driver and a much better athlete in general. I could sit here and say, no, I wasn't angry with anyone. But at the time, when they give you this news, you're angry, he says. You don't understand it, you curse, you don't understand anything that's happened to you, and obviously you think everything in life is terrible and you don't understand. He said, understand quite a lot. I appreciate that. Deep breath. But then he says, time cures everything, and you start to accept you start to accept certain things and try and see everything with a lot more of a relative mind, and you start to comprehend, adapt, and forgive, and forget, and get on with your own life. Just get on with it. I remember I kept telling myself to get on with it and do your own thing. It's something that you need you need to see more relative as time goes by. I think that's really, really nice. So he's basically saying he thinks, Ferrari going to thrive. He was a bit hurt. He's kind of over it now, and if Carlos Sainz's one legacy is getting Williams back to being competitive, maybe not regular winners, but podium finishes, etc., over by the end of his time there, or even winners, that'd be amazing. No one's going to forget that legacy. I mean, that'd be absolutely amazing. And it's going to be really interesting how Carlos Sainz gets on with Alex Albon, just as much as it's going to be interesting, as I've kept saying again and again, how Lewis is going to be getting on with Charles Leclerc. I don't know who's going to win that one. Everyone says Charles Leclerc is the favourite. Qualifying? Yeah, probably. Race? I don't know. I'd give Lewis the race, but it depends on how far he qualifies back. In respect of Charles Leclerc. Anyway, if you've made it to the end, you know what's going to happen. I'm going to ask you to subscribe if you're already not. But you don't have to. Just clicking on this video is enough. Just making it to the end is more than enough. But if you want to do that bit more and you are already subscribed and you've hit that notification button, hit that like button or comment below. Let us know what you think about Lewis, about Carlos Sainz's opinions on Lewis Hamilton. But until then, thank you very much for watching. Speak to you soon, of course. And above all else, stay safe.